So you lend someone money. It doesn't matter whether they're a poor man or a rich man. You lent the money without collateral. And when the time came to pay, you asked the fellow, listen, you may not have the money now, but give me some security to pay for a payback on the loan. Lo yim shachenenu ba'atzmo bizroa ela al pi beistin. He says, if let's say the guys can't pay back the loan, so he said, well, then give me something of yours that will be of the same value. So the halacha is that you do not have permission al pi halacha to forcefully confiscate. You can't come into his house and forcefully confiscate his property as payment for your loan. You must do it rather al pi beistin, using a beistin's valuation and authority. Sheyishlachu shluchim. They will send representatives, and these representatives will go in, and they will be the one to do the valuation on the property that you want to use for compensation, or at least for security, until the guy can pay you back. The imashchano ba'atzmo, but so that's when there was no collateral written into the loan, and you didn't take collateral at the time you lent him money. You just want to get something from him. You know that he has personal effects that are of value. You must involve a third party in order. You can't take the law into your own hands. But v'imashchano ba'atzmo bein shechataf min halov b'shuk bein shenichnas leveso shalomidaito v'notel mashkon areza oiver below sase. And if you do confiscate something that belongs to him, whether you grab something from him in the marketplace, like you see him with a donkey, and you say, well, I'm just taking your donkey then until you can pay me back. Or you go into his house without his permission, and you just take something of his, areza over below sasa. You're in violation of a negative commandment, shenamar lo savo el beso. You're not allowed to come into his house. If a person doesn't have with the cash to pay you back, you do not have permission, the Torah says, to walk into his house. Ve'ein tzarich loimar lenotel bizroa afilu bishuk. And certainly it goes without saying that you can't forcefully confiscate it. In other words, just grabbing it without any force involved is usher. So how much more so if you take it using physical force? Like the guy's holding on to it. He says, let go. You just happen to be stronger and you grab it away from him, then you're certainly in violation. I'm not sure. He doesn't say it's theft. The Torah says, lo tavo el beito. When someone owes you money, you're not allowed to go into their house without their permission to take stuff. We'll see if there's geneva involved or gezela involved in here as well. Umatam olomar bachutz ta'amod v'ha'isha sherta no shabo yotzi eleches avot achutza. He says, so the second part of the pasuk says, you must wait outside the fellow's house, and the person who owes you the money shall bring out for you the avot, the cistern, or whatever else other object is being held that he wants to use for collateral. He shall bring it outside to you. So what you see from there is that you do have a right to demand. However, based on the Gemara, that means b'shliach beistin hakasav medaber. That's referring to when a shliach beistin is involved in the process. You have a proxy of the beistin supervising collection of the debt because you've taken the guy to beistin. It's been established that he owes you money, that he hasn't paid back the debt. A shliach beistin then would have the authority, or the marshal, I guess we would say. I don't know, what do you call a marshal in Canada? The guy. The sheriff, the bailiff. Thank you. Yeah. The bailiff would come into the house, and that the bailiff has the authority al pi halacha, to forcibly remove the item from the fellow's house. V'hu hadin likach mimenu bizroa b'shuk. He also has the authority to forcefully take it away from him if he finds him in the marketplace. Avolo yikanes lebeso litol mimenu b'toras mashkon, ella b'toras piraon. He says, but the bailiff does not have the authority to take, he should not go into his house to take it as a mashkon, as security, but rather as payment for the debt. That's what the Torah gives him permission to do. Rakish anoto b'toras piraon, tzarech lahaniach lo kidei sidur beistin shemesadrin lebalcho. So what they have to do is the bailiff has to leave for him some kind of, I guess it's some kind of receipt. And the Imrei Yaakov says that this is as written previously in Sif Hay. What did we see in Sif Hay? Oh, I see. In other words, no. What it means is that the Shliach Beis Din has to leave ample supplies for the debtor so that he can live. That's, remember, we learned in Sif Hay that you can't strip him of everything. You have to leave him enough food for 30 days, and you have to leave him enough clothes, right, for the year and so forth. So, but you can take everything else as payment. You can take his Fabergé eggs, his baseball card collection, and so forth and so on. Ella, okay, b'toras piron. Rakish anotel b'toras piron tzarech laniach lo k'dei sidur beistin sh'mesadrin balchov u'chishanotel b'toras mashkon ein tzarech lahaniach lo klum. He says, if, however, the shliach beis din is taking it as a mashkon, as security, that your creditor will hold on to this until you can pay him back the debt. So then you can take everything from him. If you're the shliach beis din, which sounds very, very strange. Ach tzarech lahachzur lo kol kli be'eshu hu tzarech lo v'yachzor v'yikachenu be'es she'ein tzarech lo machzur lo. So v'yikachenu be'es she'ein tzarech lo. But the only proviso is when you take, let's say, you clear him out of everything in his house. Well, remember, we said you got to leave him a bed, you got to leave him a chair, you got to leave him clothing. So if, let's say, you take those things, because that's all he's got, the shliach beis din has now a regular job. He has to return those items when at the time of day when the fellow needs it. So I'm not sure about the bed. It's going to be a big job to schlep the bed in and out of the house. But let's say pajamas, right? You take the guy's one pair of pajamas. So at night, before it's time for bed, the shliach beis din has to return the pajamas to him, come back the next morning and take the pajamas from him. Yeah, you can take the day clothes, which is very bizarre when you think about it. Like, who's going to do this? But that's really the way the Torah describes it. You have to wait for him outside, and then you have to return the items to him that he needs at the time that he needs it, because those are essential items that he can't live without. So machzur lo es hakar b'layla k'dei lishon olav. So, for example, you have to return to him a pillow that you confiscated during the day so that he has what to sleep on. And you have to return his plow to him during the day so that he has something that he can work with. And all similar kinds of effects. Shenemar hashev tashiv lo es ha'avot kevo hashemesh. That b'shachav b'salmaso uveracheka. You shall return to him the security when the sun goes down, so that he can sleep with his blanket and bless you. So, in other words, if you confiscated his blanket, you have to return it to him before nighttime. Zuk sus laila shemachziro lo b'laila, as the Gemara says. This refers to his night clothing or his night coverings that he needs to sleep with at night. V'im chavol tachbol salmas re'echa ad bo hashemesh teshivenu lo zuk sus yom. And if you do take as security your friend's clothing or covering, then when By the time the sun comes up, you must give it back to him. And zuksus yom, this refers to day clothing or day needs. Shemachzira lo l'chol hayom ad bo hashemesh, until the sun goes down. Va'aznot lo umachzir ksus laila. And then you return to him his night essentials. V'chein kol kali ba'eshu tzarech lo. And similarly, every item that he needs at the time that he needs it for essential work or essential existence, so then you have to return it to him when he needs those. Now, it sounds like it's an impossible task. The shliach beis din is going to go ahead and do this. I mean, in theory, it's possible, but it just seems to be a little bit crazy that someone's going to act in this way. But that's actually what the Torah says. This is straight out of Parshas Kiseitze and Parshas Mishpatim. That's what the Torah literally says to do. That if a poor man owes you money, you do have a right to take possession of even his essential items as security until he can pay you back, provided that you give them back to him at the time when he needs them. So you take the guy's pillow, it's got a special orthopedic pillow, and you say, okay, this is worth X amount of money, I'm taking it from you as security, but then when it's time for him to go to bed, you give it back to him. So I guess, and it can't even be you, the creditor. It's got to be beis din. Beis din is the only one that's authorized to go into his house and take it from him. Okay, so the afim, I guess it incentivizes the fellow to eventually pay you back because it's going to wear him down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he doesn't have the right to do it, right?
I guess it must be a slow month in beis din, and they don't have anything for this schlepper to do, so they give him this job. Because I guess maybe he's getting an annual salary anyway. I don't know. It's hard to create a scenario in today's economic situation, but at least you understand what the rights of the creditor are. And the fact is that even if the debtor says, listen, we don't need a beis din, I voluntarily will give you my pillow as collateral. It's a very expensive pillow. But there's still a commandment for the creditor. If you know that he doesn't have anything to sleep on at night, then you should make sure that every evening you return the pillow to him and then let him drop it off to you in the morning. He says if something is used both day and night by the debtor, you're never allowed to take that from him. That's considered to be essential. So let's say he wears a garment both day and night. Remember, in those days, they didn't do laundry. You know, this whole din about the 9 days about not doing laundry is, it wasn't a big deal. You could go a month without doing the laundry and no one would say boo. You know, you could be wearing the same pair of gatkas for a month. That's why, you know, and people didn't have deodorant. People didn't have cologne. It was a very smelly time up until the 20th century. Yeah, but no one cared because everyone smelled that way, right? So anyway, so if a guy is wearing this item both day and night, then you would never be allowed to take it because it's in constant use. Or if a person has eating utensils, like a tray or a plate, or a table or a tablecloth, and the like, those are things that are used both during the day and the night, because people sometimes eat during the day, sometimes people eat during the night, and therefore, you cannot take those essential items that are used 24/7. Okay, so that's the end of the sif. Again, not a very practical from a modern halachic standpoint. So we'll just run through the Imrei Yaakov and let's see where it gets us. Okay. Hamalves chavero. If you lend someone money, aval b'chov acher kugon schirus uchadoma lekabo isser kidol lekaman sif yadalad ayin sham. what we're going to see is that this issue of the prohibiting a creditor from confiscating materials from a debtor only applies to loans. But let's say someone owes you money for services rendered. Like I've provided services to a guy and he stiffed me for those services. So in those situations, these restrictions do not apply. There are going to be times when it'll be theoretically even permitted to confiscate items from him forcibly. But we'll see. We're not going to pass judgment until we see that in Sif Yud Dalet. The Echad Ashir, it makes no difference whether the person is wealthy or poor. Because even though the Torah says that if he's a poor man, you may not sleep with his security, Amrinan Besifrei Ainli Ela Ani, Asher Minayin Tamalomar V'im Ish. The Medrash learns that it's not Lav Dafka a poor man. It can apply to a rich man as well. Im Kain Ma Tamalomar Ani, Maher Ani Lipora Al Yedei Ani Yoser Mina Asher. So why does the Torah use the example of a poor man? Because God says, I will extract vengeance or punishment from a person who exploits a poor man more quickly than I will for someone who exploits a poor man. So a rich man, right? Exactly. When the time for payment arrives, the kol shekeni madayin lo higia hazman. So certainly, even when the loan becomes due, you're not allowed to confiscate his stuff. Certainly that's true before the loan comes due. Al-Pi Beis-Din, you can only utilize the services of Beis-Din to confiscate someone's items. In Bahamalva Beis-Din lamashkin lalova ulipora mimenu, yesh lebeis-din lasos lodin. So in general, if a man comes to Beis-Din and says, this guy owes me money, Beis-Din has to attend to that din Torah. Below yomru ploni rotzalomar haloiva ani ve'enla. They are not allowed to. In other words, this is a Beis-Din halacha. Beis-Din does not have a right to say to a creditor, leave him alone. He's a poor man. Just, cut him some slack. Uploni rotzalomar hamalva asher ve'en sarchlo. And you, Yankala, you have money. Why are you hocking him a chinik? Why are you bothering him? Beis-Din does not have the right to have rachmanis on a person just because they're poor, which is a fascinating insight into the laws of din. And that's part of sometimes a Beis-Din can be unprofessional. And it's important to know that a lack of professionalism in Beis-Din can be a violation of halacha. And quite often it is. That if the Beis-Din behaves in a way where they say, I know, and we've had this situation where a guy, you heard the violins playing, where the Beis-Din paskin that a guy owes money, and and then one of the rabbis that was on the Beis-Din called me and said he doesn't really have, he's going through a divorce and he lost his this and da 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 da. So I guess maybe in using a back channel, it would be okay for one of the rabbanim to contact the creditor and say, have rachmanis on the guy. But in the Beis-Din itself, the Beis-Din has to be professional. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean that's yeah, I don't remember the halacha specifically, but it sounds familiar. But the point is that the Beis-Din has to be judicious when they are approached by a member of the community. Ela ein merachim in bedin. There's no such thing as having rachmanus when you're passing judgment. Dichsiv kakaton kagadol tishmaun bekaton hainu ani. The Torah says that you have to listen to both the poor man and the rich man's claims. And you can't say, well, we'll have rachmanus on the poor because the guy's poor and he doesn't have. Yes.
Outside of it, like at night, calling back, say, listen, I know this happened today, but the guy's having a rough ride. Outside of the professionalism of being
Yeah, I guess, and yeah, but the Beis Din has to hear the case. Once they hear the case, they have to paskin according to din, right? And then it could be like afterwards, like this rabbi called me and said, do me a favor. I know that I know what we paskind. Psak was correct, but if you can work out payments with this guy, he's having some trouble and so forth and so on. That's okay. Okay. And of course, it's considered to be proper for any person to have Rahmanus on somebody else, but not, but sometimes a person may be extremely aggressive and cutthroat in dealing with you in business. And then when they end up losing in this very fierce kind of aggressive, wear you down kind of behavior, and then you end up taking them to Beis Din and prevailing, it's a little bit harder to have Rahmanas on someone like that, because they were really trying to evade their obligations to you. Whereas, look, I had to take you to Beis Din in the first place. You failed to acknowledge that you owed me the money. I had to sue you in Beis Din because you wanted to come up with these cockamamie arguments why you shouldn't have to pay me the money. It cost me a lot of extra money in order to extract the debt from you. And now you're asking me for Rahmanas. So, so I'm not saying to take a hike. I'm just saying that you have to know when to exercise Rahmanas and when not to exercise Rahmanas. Sometimes Rahmanas is not the right thing to do. Okay, because and certainly it's arguable that if he did that to me, he's going to do that to the next guy. And someone's got to teach this guy a lesson. And sometimes that's the right course of action to take. Hard to know in every situation, but hard to know. Okay. Okay, we'll hold it here for today.